Recording.
Meeting, please come to order. Barbara, please call the roll.
We have Commissioners Levine, Berard, Noonan, and Vasquez present.
Okay, and I understand Commissioner Funderburk has an outside meeting before a judge that he had to appear before, but on behalf of a client, but he should be here within an hour or so. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. I have very brief opening remarks, which I would have made 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago had I been at the last meeting, but I wasn't able to attend. And I'm sure all of this has been done by others, but this is the first commission meeting that I have attended that our new commissioner, Aldo Vasquez, is participating in. And while we were very, very pleased and proud to be working with Michael Fleming during the entire time that the entire time that most of us and most of the time that Commissioner Noonan was here, we are also very, very thrilled to have Commissioner Vasquez join us. She comes extremely well recommended, and I know that she's going to be a great asset to the commission. So, welcome.
Thank you.
We have one speaker card, and it's a very distinguished speaker, and I'll ask Barbara to call him to the microphone.
Our speaker is Tom LaBage.
You know, let me just say, in 4 years, I have called public comment at almost every meeting, and I don't recall another time when the public commenter got applause before he spoke.
Mr. Congressman, thank you, Mr. President, members of the Board of Water Power Commission, and to the staff and the team that is here. This is a very special place, and there's 3 reasons why I came. And first and foremost, I'm looking for Marty Adams. I wanted to say thank you, and thank you to the water system. Several years ago, they put a water system within Griffith Park, and 10 years ago, this last May, we reflected on that fire that torched 1,200 acres of Griffith Park. And with that being done, it would have happened without the Department of Water and Power, because previous to that, it was a park system that ran the water, not the Record Parks Department, not Water and Power. And they had more holes in the pipes than Wilson, Harding, and Roosevelt Golf Course combined. And so that's what I wanted to say. Thanks for that, number one. Number two, thanks to the mayor and to council members Rue and O'Farrell and your leadership in bringing water back to Ivanhoe and Silver Lake and other reservoirs. It's a smart move, and people tell me how wonderful it is. And you're going to work through all the other challenges you have, but it's nice to see water in that wonderful facility there. And also recall that you saved $23 million by going through the reservoir as opposed to going down the street. And many of the meetings we had in the street, because the most effective way to communicate sometimes is in the street. And it was a citizen who said, why don't you go through the reservoir? And Marty Adams and staff came back, Rich, if that's correct, and did the numbers and found out they'd save a lot of money. So I wanted to thank you for that. And then finally, I wanted to just ask, and I'm sorry Marty's not here, but right Marty's right here. Good Marty. I love Marty Adams. Good to see you. Oh, very good, Marty.
Marty isn't usually so hard to spot.
I hike every morning in Griffith Park, and I live in Silver Lake, and I take care of a garden up there with some others, and it's very special. Yeah. But in life, you need 2 things, water and relationships. And water does help and feed the system. You have a Griffith Park South water system going in that is going to be right here from Vista Del Val, just to not get too specific, down to the historic nursery at Commonwealth. And then there's a golf course that you're going to connect to. But if you go a little further, you connect to the panels and the parkways of Vermont and Hillhurst. And I love Governor Brown, and I really love Governor Brown, but I know Governor Brown wants to see everything brown, but I want to put green where the people are. And it's not the people live in Los Feliz as much as I'm concerned about the people who come from around the city up those parkways. So to be able to show that again, that reclaimed water would help out. And then you help out the great Greek theater, because every time they have a show, they got to wash it down, and they're using potable water. Reclaimed water would help that. And then most importantly, because of the great work and the history of this department of William Mulholland, if you're here with the source, you could no need a pump to get to here. And there's a beautiful bird sanctuary that was destroyed in the fire of 2007. And Jill, if we get water back, it's going to bring back life to this beautiful bird sanctuary. So I'm working with the great Marty Adams and other team members, and I just wanted to let you know that and say basically thank you, and also let you know how important water and power is to our history of our city. First with, as I said, Mr. Mulholland, and then with the Port of Los Angeles and Phineas Banning, and with the World Port, you're the driving force of Los Angeles. And I'm proud of the workers who work there, especially a fellow who lives in the district off of Melrose, who takes a truck home every night, and often in the middle of the night, he jumps in that truck and goes serves the public. So I just can't say that enough, and I haven't seen in the microphone for a long time, so I am going to get long. So I'll thank you very much to all of you, and I'll work with your staff on that, but I wanted the commission to know, because I want your backing to get the reclaimed water there to feed the Vermont Canyon and especially the nursery. Thank you.
I'm just not going to let you go until I say a couple of things on personal privilege. First of all, thank you for your continuing public service, which never ends. And on a personal note, I first got to know Tom when he worked for John Ferraro, for whom this building is appropriately named, and who, in my book, was one of the most marvelous public servants this city, state, or country has ever had. And then when Tom succeeded John in his seat, he very impressively and powerfully continued the John Ferraro tradition of public service. And everybody in this community owes you and the memory of John a great debt of thanks.
Well, thank you. And he was a great man, and his name is deserved on here. I hope Marty got the lights fixed, because sometimes I show this building off at night, and sometimes I'll get them fixed, Marty? Yeah, I think they are. Let's get that thing straight out. But he was so special, and I thank my parents, who were both born in Los Angeles, and the giving that they all were. And I also thank my grandfather, who I was named after, and he was Thomas Joseph Lernahan. And as a rookie police officer, he was on the mounted unit, and over at 2nd and Figueroa, Neil, his horse keeled over and died. And you know, if you get in a little bumper fender bender with the city vehicle, you fill out a report. Well, they had to fill out a report right there. But being good Irish, he didn't know how to spell Figueroa because the sign wasn't there. So you know what he did? He dragged the horse to Flower and never had a bad report his whole day. God bless. Thank you.
Okay, guys, that's going to be a tough act to follow.
Tom will be here till Thursday, and remember, tip your waitresses on the way out.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
One last thing, Melvin, I just want to say. This building sits at the top of the 2nd largest civic center in the United States, next to our nation's capital. So it's only prominent that you're here at this spot on top, and now you're going over to Figueroa. Well, that's a city building too. So you go all the way to Figueroa to Alameda. That tells you about our downtown and water and power and all of us together. Good work, good job. I'm out the door. Thank you.
Okay, well, the guy who gets to follow that is our general manager.
And I'm not nearly as humorous. Ask anyone that works for me. So I have a couple items I'd like to chat about for a minute. The first is the announcement earlier this week that the United States would pull out of the Paris Agreement, the Paris Accord. While we can't discuss that today on the agenda, I've asked that that item be put on the agenda for the next meeting so we could discuss the requirements and where we are as a power utility and you know, everything related to DWP, and where we stand related to that. As you know, California is beyond any of the requirements, but we can go into a little more detail so that the board can talk about that and discuss anything that needs to occur or that they'd like to have happen. So that's first. Second is we've selected 2 new members of the IT department. As you're aware, about well, when I first got here, we had one IT director, and IT is an area that's growing so fast that pretty soon after I got here, I decided I think it needed 3 different directors. One who would essentially run the general IT operations, and you've met him before, Mr. Lewis Carr. And then we have another person that we did a national search, and the best candidate turned out to be right here at DWP, and that's the Information Technology Director in charge of cybersecurity, and that would be David Alexander. David, if you would sign a stand up, thank you. And just if you'd like to say a couple comments, but David, it was a national search, and he is truly the best candidate for this position.
I do want to thank you for the consideration. It was as trying for me as it probably was for you to go through that process, but the process was a good one, and I intend to serve the department to the best of my ability and make us a more secure environment.
Thank you very much, and we will continue to do some future updates related to our cybersecurity efforts. And as the public might know, some of those are done in public because it's cybersecurity. Some of those are done in closed session, and it is very important. The elevators look like they're holding back our 3rd director, but the IT director in charge of our customer care and billing system. As you know, that system has had a lot of problems and a lot of challenges moving forward. And we have a person in charge of that, Mark Townsend, who has been overseeing that from a department side for a number of years, but really stepped up about 2 years ago and took that on and the remediation as his primary task. He's announced his retirement at the end of this month. I'd like to announce that, again, an internal candidate, Ms. Flora Chang. Flora, she will take over Mark's position and be in charge, again, of the remediation. She is fantastic at her job and can identify a lot of these different issues and then a path moving forward on how we can correct a lot of the deficiencies that still exist within the customer care billing system. A little interesting to think how much IT has taken over the operations compared to 50 years ago when there wasn't a computer in existence. And now we literally have and absolutely need 3 IT directors to take those huge portions of what we're doing and make sure that we have an effective, efficient, and protected IT structure. So with that, I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is comments from commissioners on agendized items and requests from commissioners relating to departmental operations. Do any commissioners have any such things that they wish to discuss? No? Okay. Comments from ratepayer advocate on agendized items?
I will have brief comments on items 6 related to the clean energy future, item 12 concerning the metrics, item 22 related to IT systems, and item 23 on the OAT.
Okay, good to know. We will move to item 6, the policy discussion, presentation and discussion on LA's clean energy future.
Good morning, Rayco Kerr, Senior Assistant General Manager for Power Systems. With me, I have Louis Ting, our Director of Planning and Development. The item before you is to provide an update on where we are for certain items within the power system. So, as a recap, Power System is committed to the safe and reliable electric service in that order. We provide high-quality service that's environmentally friendly in a responsible manner and offer competitive rates. Key priorities is upgrading our aging infrastructure, which is anywhere from 30 to 100 years old, meeting and exceeding renewable energy mandates and other regulatory requirements, as well as improving customer service. At the top of the graph, it shows where the department is in terms of its renewable portfolio standard. The first line shows California's mandate under Senate Bill 350, as well as what the department's targets are. And I'd like to highlight 2016 where it shows we're 29%. Actually, we are going to be 30%. In addition to that, we looked at over the last quarter our single hour with the highest percentage of renewable energy and greenhouse gas free energy serving our customers. And for 1 hour in April of 2017, we provided 87% greenhouse gas free power, as well as 77% or 74% renewable energy. So quite a accomplishment for the utility. In addition, on the right-hand side, it shows our progress with renewable procurement. We have about 1,000 megawatts of both solar and wind. We have one of the largest, most robust behind-the-meter solar programs in the country with 220 megawatts of solar rooftop. And we have an additional 384 megawatts of renewable energy planned today. The graph on the lower right shows where we are in terms of greenhouse gases. The dotted line at the top shows the 1990 level regarding our power supply portfolio that serves our customers. The solid blue line is the goals under SB 32 that said a goal of 40% below the 1990 levels by 2030. As you can see, we are currently in 2017 going to be below that goal 13 years before the mandate. So we continue to reduce greenhouse gases. We've had the mandate to get off coal. We fully support that, and we continue our efforts of reducing greenhouse gases. In addition, the utility is a very old utility, seasoned, if you will. So we are very committed to upgrading our infrastructure to help us ensure that safe and reliable system. So it includes replacement and upgrades of all areas from distribution, substation, transmission, generation, our whole fleet. So this is the original schedule for our once-through cooling units, which essentially had a mandate under California that if you're using ocean water to cool generation, you have to get off that ocean water cooling by 2020. LA negotiated very robustly with the State Water Resources Control Board to allow us to have a 9-year extension because we had 3 in-basin plants that needed to be repowered or reconditioned, modernized. And we could not, because of local distribution constraints, transmission constraints, we could not afford to do, or we couldn't continue to provide reliable power if we did all the units simultaneously. So we came up with an agreed upon schedule that phased those units in over time. Some of those units, as you notice, are over 60 years old now. And of the 2 units that we have already repowered, the greenhouse gas and emissions from those units are over 40% below what they were before the repowering because it was such old technology. And the technology we use with the repower are much more effective at not only reducing emissions, but they're better to integrate renewables. So they have the qualities of we can start them up very quickly and we can cycle them up and down to help with renewables when they show up or go away. So where we are today, we are taking a pause on our once-through cooling schedule, and we are looking more holistically at the whole system. So we know the remaining units we have to repower or modernize, and we want to know all the different scenarios. What is required? We don't want to do more than we need. We want to make sure that we incorporate any type of advanced technologies that we could at those places. So we're trying to look holistically at the system rather than one power plant at a time. So we can, maybe if we do this one here, we don't have to do that one, or we can reduce this one, or what are the local, with the current infrastructure we have today, because we can't replace it, we're left with that infrastructure. What can we do to maximize the reduction of greenhouse gases while continue to ensure reliable power delivery? So key components of the study that are required, we need to continue to meet our NERC and WEC reliability standards. Those are, the NERC is the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, the WEC is the Western Electric Coordinating Council, and they're responsible for ensuring the reliable operations of the high voltage system. We're looking to see that our local transmission and distribution system remain reliable and that we have adequate resources and transmission capacity to serve our projected customer load while we balance that momentarily supply with customer need. We're also looking at what mitigation solutions we can have and what alternatives are there so that we can consider the environment. And one of the big advantages of having that local control here is this is in your hands to set policy on how we balance that reliability, impact on customer rates, as well as environmentally responsible equation.
And part of this whole entire system-wide study that we're performing, and we're starting to do that, and we're going to involve with third parties, and we're going to involve with research academia and also consultants. And all of this study is going to analyze the reliability of local generation. That's the key. That's how our system was built back in the 30s to the 70s. So we built it with local generation, and because of our load growth, we have outgrew our system. So that's why we had transmission all the way in the western United States, from Washington all the way out to Nevada to Utah. And that's why that we're going to analyze the reliability of local generation and see what its requirements are and what the transmission system during the planning period of 2017-30, what is that going to look like based on our load growth, based on our resources that we are getting behind the meter, in front of the meter. We're going to analyze the greenhouse gas emissions levels of each alternative that we're going to find, because there are other technology that are ramping up and developing that potentially can be replaced and replacing other type of technology that's out there that we originally have thought. So this is obviously going to include additional renewables, and this is the reason why that we're looking at the alternatives, because the fact that renewable technology has becoming more sustainable, but also the fact that it's been more reliable. And one example is that we have seen the solar and energy storage pricing has come down significantly, and we want to evaluate that as part of the feasibility and as an alternative. And we're going to provide all the quantitative, the qualitative, and comparative analysis during all those studies as part of the results that we're going to find. And we're obviously going to come up with a recommendation with the most practical and the mitigation solutions. The results we're going to use to develop the obviously scope of work. So the initial repowering project that we have envisioned before, how is that going to change? So we're going to develop scope of work based on that, and we're going to work with our supply chain folks and to see what other procurement strategy we can come up with, because this potentially can involve behind the meter and the customer service here, plus also in front of the meter, like our solar rooftop program. And those are the strategy we're going to come up with. And what are the impacts on rates based on all the alternatives that we have studied? And we're going to work with very closely with Neil and his team on determining that. The optimal solution that we're going to come up with is not just going to involve all the elements I just mentioned, but also going to take account of, in consideration of, all the equity metrics that we already developed. We're going to look at the geographic and demographics, and we're going to look at the safety and number of outages that has occurred based on the location that we found. All of that's going to take into consideration a part of the study, and obviously through all the modeling, we'll take that into account. And some of the projects that we're going to be looking at, it's going to improve reliability as part of PSRP, and that's going to be a heavy consideration, especially when it comes to look at transmission options. So some of the potential alternatives we've already known, we are putting here. There's going to be other alternatives that we foresee that we're going to find during the whole study. We potentially can say, well, we can repower the one-through cooling units with reduced energy needs based on our local transmission requirements, reliability constraints, and also reliability requirements. So that could be one of the alternatives. And also with additional renewable energy, what else can we bring in from the transmission system that we already have? What are some of the renewable resources adding energy storage system as part of the picture? Transmission line improvements only and upgrades, what does that look like? Can we improve existing transmission system to assist the local generation, to help the reliability grid, without expending much of the capital that we already been budgeted under PSRP. And I know the center bullet, it's very presumptuous, but potentially one of the scenarios, it could be the fact that we had to repower the OTC units based on it as originally planned. But then we're also going to look at transmission with energy storage system. That could be one scenario. And obviously, we're already doing a lot of the deployment of distributed energy resources such as electric vehicle charging, very robust rebate program on that. And behind the meter energy storage, we're definitely working with the state and also working with other utilities, see how we can leverage the state REAP incentive program, but also looking at being a good neighbor. For example, the fire station that we're looking at putting a battery behind their meter, and also working at recs and parks. Now looking at some of the facility where they have emergency cool-off centers, potentially we can work with them on that for resiliency. Energy efficiency, very robust, and the demand response and load shift, working with FSO, trying to get those programs increased and see how that fits the picture as part of the resources that we need for the whole entire system. But then again, it could be a combination of all these different type of scenarios when the study gets done. So how long is it going to take us to do this? Well, we anticipate to complete by the early 2018. Our target is first quarter 2018 to complete the study. And we obviously going to look at the future integrated resource plan process, and the study will be part of that process, and be included in the IRP documents. Just on the budget, just to kind of clarify some of the budget questions that we have on the repowering. There are no funds will be expended for repowering. What that means is we're not going to expend on procurement for repowering. So any type of repowering procurement funds has to come to the board for recommendation, and also for approval by the board and also by the council. Just to clarify also what's budgeted for the repowering projects, even though they're not really repowering, they're really demolition projects right now, is that in order to create more space for any type of resource that we need to put at Scattergood, Haynes, and Harbor, we need to demolish some of the existing units, and that's budgeted in fiscal 17-18, as you can see on the bullet there. Okay. So some of the reasons why we're taking a pause, one of the key components, some of the major initiatives enlisted here, the first 4 bullets, it's all about expansion of renewable resources, our electrical vehicle charging infrastructure, the energy storage, and our expansion of the smart grid, working with our corporate project management team. Is that all those 4 bullets, if you just think about it, if we continue to add on to our repowering megawatt for megawatt, or just as is, business as usual, some of these resources may be stranded at the end based on our financial models. So one of the key components of this initiative is our 100% renewable energy study. And if we are going to kick it off this month with our stakeholders and starting to find out that 100% renewable study takes us out to the years where our assets may be stranded, we definitely don't want that to happen. So that's why we look at this very seriously, at taking a pause and see what that takes us. Again, some of the energy efficiency, community solar, mentioned a bit about that, and we do have a distributed energy resource integration study. What that is we're going to have a pilot project to really look at how that distributed energy resource is affecting the grid. And we're going to have a pilot project that we're going to kick off this year to study that, so that we can understand better behind the meter solar, behind the meter energy storage, electrical vehicle charging, how does that affect our grid, and what studies do we need to continue to better integrate those. I don't want to underscore the last bullet, and I just want to let the board understand that the energy, one of the best energy storage, most reliable, most trusted, most well-known energy storage is hydro. And we have one of the best Castaic power plant. That it is one of the largest pump storage hydro in the western United States. There's 1,200 megawatts plus of pump storage, and we are exploring additional options and additional new projects, potential new projects for pump storage, energy storage. So that's that. And the next steps, we are already collaborating with our neighboring utilities, looking at what their DERs, what their distributed energy resources are, and how are they working to solve those common challenges and so forth. And if we continue reliance on renewable, and those are the variable energy resources, how can we better our reliability or maintain our reliability by adapting more energy storage at the right places? So different technologies means different locations potentially, and then different applications for them. Other technology program where we reduce GHG emissions, we're definitely looking at those, and including working with the states on getting the GHG credit for our electric vehicle adaptations and also the charger adaptations. We're going to work with research partnership with entities such as DOE-funded NRER, so we're also taking steps, and thanks to the board and council approving of the Energy Imbalance Market Implementation Agreement, we're taking a much bigger step and a much faster pace now with CalISO into the energy imbalance market. Definitely expand our public outreach with our stakeholder programs, and we're working very closely with other city to not just to see what options we have, but also collaborate with them on the resiliency, but also on renewable resources. And we'll definitely bring back the study results back to the board.
And I think what is important on this study is we don't have a predetermined outcome. We are looking to see what are the best solutions that we can bring forward to you and help determine what that future looks like. With that, any questions?
Well, that's terrific. Thank you very, very much. We have two speaker cards on this item. The ratepayer advocate has some comments, and I think I'll do that and then ask for commissioner responses. So the speaker cards, Barbara?
Okay, the first speaker is Evan Gillespie.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for this. I'm still processing in real time, but this was a great presentation. I think suffice to say, Sierra Club has been critical of the department in recent years about its plans for repowers, and I just want to take a moment to publicly thank staff and the board for taking this important step back to really look at the full system and look at the best way forward that protects the environment, that's best for ratepayers, and gets us to the maximally optimal outcome. So we really appreciate it. I did have one question that we wanted to put forward to the team today, which is how this impacts the CEQA process going forward, and if the CEQA review and work will continue as this study unfolds, or if that's also on pause. But I'm sure we'll have other questions and follow up. But for today, thank you very much, and really appreciate the presentation.
Thanks, Evan.
The next speaker is Angela Mazzaros.
Good morning. I'm Angela Johnson-Mazzaros from Earth Justice. And as we all know, California is moving rapidly to 100% clean energy reality. And as you know, there's a bill pending right now that'll move us to 100% clean renewables by 2045. So we continue to believe that this agency, just like other utilities in the state, can pivot to building the 21st century energy system. So I'm really excited to see the commission and the staff taking the steps that are proposed here today. And I just wanted to also say that this is exciting news. Still processing it, but I did want to be very clear that we're here to work with you and support you as you move forward. And we're looking forward to an open process and a transparent process where we can build together for the future of the city. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. Dr. Pickle.
We're very pleased to see this thorough review being made before we make next steps. And because of the rapid evolution of the energy business in a number of areas, I think this is an important step. We will have a review of the study from the ratepayer advocate's perspective at the end, and we'll try to bring in the right resources to help us do that.
Great. Commissioners.
Good job. Well done. I appreciate this update. The one request that I have is just since the last time I attended the board meeting of May 2nd, on two separate occasions, I was advised of how our department was working with other city departments, and I really had no information about what we're doing with the port and about the big project that we're doing there in terms of kind of like a distribution house where containers would be stored and how we're using that roof for solar panel, which I think is going to affect, this effort greatly. And I also heard a little bit about what we're doing with LAX. So as a commissioner, I personally would like to be better informed about those big projects because I didn't really have a lot to offer in that conversation, and I felt unprepared to represent our department that way. Thank you.
Other commissioner comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. This is very exciting to see your report, so thank you so much for taking the time to truly, really share with us what are the plans for the department. I would like to also just reflect and see how we are already generating energy with a not so renewable sources, and how maybe on the next future report we can see how maybe replacing that energy with much more renewable energy would it look like and affect this plan. So I know you spoke extensively about storage, and I think that that's going to be key if we want to continue using our renewables and just expanding our renewables, especially on solar here in Los Angeles and residential solar. But also I would like to see a little bit of a report on what are how costly will that be? What are what are some of the benefits that we can gain from this, and how also this is gonna put us on track to, of course, meet state mandates and so.
I'll just chime in saying thank you for a very, very helpful initiative. Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to skip over closed session for a while and see how much of the open session we can take care of, and then go to closed session. First of all, we'll go to monthly reports. Office of the Chief Administrative Office, April 2017.
The report is included in your packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Water System, December 2016.
Ditto.
Ditto. Any questions? Ditto. Discussion with neighborhood council representatives on any neighborhood council resolution or community impact statement filed with the city clerk which relate to any agenda item listed or being considered on this agenda for the Water and Power Board. Barbara?
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on the items on today's agenda.
Okay, we will move approval of two different meetings minutes. First, the regular board meeting of May 2nd with Levine, Funderburk, Noonan, and Barad present. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second, those in favor? Aye. Those are approved. Regular board meeting of May 16th, which I guess we can't do until Commissioner Funderburk gets here because the only commissioners present were Funderburk, Barad, and Vasquez. So we'll, can I have a motion to defer approval of the minutes of May 16th?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
We'll deal with that later. Okay. There has been a request to defer items 14 and 15. May I have a motion to defer those two items?
So moved.
Commissioner, can I also request to defer 27 until Commissioner Funderburk arrives?
Yes. So let's move to defer 14, 15, and 27. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. They're deferred. I want to pull items 22 and 23 from the consent calendar to be heard, to be discussed. Do any other commissioners wish to remove any other items from the consent calendar?
Item 20, please.
Commissioner Noonan wishes to remove item 20. Are there any others? Okay, do I have a motion to approve items 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 24, 25, and 26.
So moved.
Second, those in favor?
Aye.
Those are approved. So we will begin a little bit out of order with item 23, and then we'll go to item 20.
I do have
22.
speaker cards for item 23.
Okay, well, before we call for speakers, did you want to remove something, Jill?
I'm sorry, yes, 25.
Okay, we will take that as a amendment to the vote and pull
Commissioner,
25 as well.
Just to formalize it, can you do a motion for reconsideration since you already passed it?
Yes,
on item 25?
I move reconsideration of the consent calendar to remove item 25. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We will now, 25 is now removed. So on 23, I would like to begin by asking the ratepayer advocate for comments on item 23.
I would like to compliment the department on this new amendment to the open access transmission tariff and the very thorough job they've done in preparing this.
Great. Reiko, would you like to lead the presentation?
Absolutely. So the item before you, before I start, with me, I also, on my left, your right, is Muklis Bouillon, who is the Assistant Director for Power Planning and Development. On the right, we have outside counsel Malcolm McClellan from Van S. Feldman to assist and answer questions. So the item before you is the open access transmission tariff, and that essentially is how LA takes its excess capacity on its transmission lines that we don't need to serve our own customer needs and offers it to any eligible third party that wishes to use that. The provision of those services are governed by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, who regulates wholesale transmission and wholesale sales. FERC is also in charge of protecting the reliability of the the high voltage transmission grid, which you heard in the earlier presentation, and they have mandatory reliability requirements that govern how we operate and ensure the reliability of that grid. LA provides its excess transmission capacity on a comparable and not unduly discriminatory or preferential basis. And essentially, we treat the third-party customers the same that we treat ourselves. And this OAT gets us aligned with what FERC has as a pro forma OAT tariff. So as a way of background, the city approved the first OAT in 2001. In 2014, we were here with the first amendment to that OAT to bring it more in line with FERC processes. In 2018, we had a complaint filed at FERC by the cities of Glendale and Burbank that alleged that our practices were discriminatory and did not provide the same access to third parties.
In what year?
2015. As a result of that process, we agreed to hire a third-party consultant on independent analysis to revise our cost of service related to how we determine the rates on our OAT schedules. And we agreed that we would have a very robust process that would allow stakeholders to participate, review, and comment throughout that process. That brings us where we are today. That process is reaching completion. And with our proposed OAT before you, we have revisions to the cost-based rates as well as revisions to the non-rate terms and conditions. The cost of service, again, was performed by a third party. We brought in experts from various different areas to defend and help us prepare a appropriate rate. This is based on LA's actual costs for the most recent period available using traditional rate-making principles. Under the non-rate terms and conditions, these revisions ensure that we provide that service in a comparable manner that we provide to ourselves. It's not unduly discriminatory or preferential, and we were guided by the FERC pro forma. We also consider recent rulemakings at FERC, various orders regarding FERC Order 1000, which is a planning process and how you cost allocate, as well as FERC Order 764 that talked about intra-hour scheduling. Our OAT is consistent of 10 schedules. The 2 in blue will not have a rate associated with it because it tracks the energy rate, an index that the California Independent System Operator uses. Of the other 8 schedules, we had increases in 3 of those, and we had decreases in 5 of those. Other major changes, currently we do not offer network integration transmission service, which is one of the complaints alleged, so we are proposing to add that, as well as redispatch services. However, our current processes, software, training, et cetera, aren't in place, so we propose that we will have this available in 2019. We have not had, to date, the request for that service, so we are adding it. As well as we added a local planning process for stakeholders to provide input in our transmission planning for the future. And we provided a process, well, if you wanted multi-year service or long-term service, you could get that. The stakeholder process was something that we're very proud of. It was probably one of the most robust processes that the department has engaged in. We allowed customers to participate in an open and transparent manner. We had 5 public meetings. We responded and received requests for information for 372 items. And we had a number of stakeholders that provided comments or requests for information, data requests, et cetera, during that process, and those are listed. As part of our agreement, the procedures outlining this process, at the very end, we said that the general manager would certify the results that address the comments that were provided by stakeholders throughout this 6-month process. So here are the different rate schedules, and notice Schedule 7 and 8 are together. So if you total those up, we had 5 that decreased and 3 that increased. What is important, we have our existing rates, and then we had what was proposed initially. And this is the benefit of that stakeholder process, because we had a lot of comments from stakeholders, and we carefully weighed and considered those comments. And where we were persuaded and thought it was appropriate, we made adjustments. And you can see by the 4th column over that those rates were changed as a result of this process. And so we feel very confident with this process, but I'd also like to put this a little bit in perspective. Our overall revenues from transmission is about $30 million. So in context of LA, that's less than 1% of our revenues. So just as an example, this shows LA's rate for Schedule 7 and 8, which is point-to-point transmission, and as well as a comparison for other utilities in the Western Electricity Coordinating Council footprint, and shows where we stack up. So we're here today. We also have to go to Board and Council for approval. The effective date of the OAT will be the 1st of the month, 2 months following approval by the City Council. And we will have future updates as we move down the process. In the cover letter that started the stakeholder process to review the proposed 2017 OAT, we indicated to stakeholders that if the general manager certifies rates are lower than the rates that are in the current OAT, the general manager will recommend that transmission customers receive a one-time credit reflecting the difference between the new and the current OAT rates plus interest. If the OAT is approved by the Board and Council, we will come back to the Board with that recommendation. At that time, we will have an accurate accounting and calculation of the rate adjustment credit amounts that enabled the Board to make an informed decision. I would like to acknowledge Dennis Obiang in particular. He ran this process. He's one of our engineering associates, and I saw emails at midnight weekends. I wouldn't be surprised if he worked overnight, as well as very proud of this process because it truly was interdivisional. We had financial services organization, we had legal staff assisting, we had the system operations, we had planning and development, we had communications, we had a whole group. It was very robust, as well as the external stakeholders that we truly appreciated their input into the process. So I'm very pleased with the outcome. I would like to introduce Malcolm McClellan from Van S. Feldman to make a few comments about the overall OAT revision process.
Thank you. Good morning, President Levine and board members. I'm Malcolm McClellan. I'm a partner with the Van S. Feldman law firm, and I'm here with my law partner, Justin Mueller. Together with the City Attorney's Office, we've been representing LADWP in this process. I'm here to elaborate on the process that LADWP followed to produce the tariff that is pending before you today. As noted by Ms. Kerr, the process LADWP followed was intentionally different from and superior to the processes utilized in the past. Before the process even began, in response to stakeholder criticism, LADWP worked with stakeholders to develop a written set of procedures for considering changes to the rates and to the non-rate terms and conditions of the tariff. And the tariff that is pending before you is the first application of that new process. So next I'll describe the legal foundation that guided LADWP's decision making. The business practice obligates the general manager to certify that the rates of the tariff proposal were developed using traditional principles, processes, and procedures of cost of service rate making. Now, the body of reported orders and opinions of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission comprise the most significant publicly available source of law for the wholesale rate making. While LADWP is not subject to FERC jurisdiction under Sections 205 and 206 of the Federal Power Act, LADWP relied upon the expertise of its team of cost of service consultants and attorneys to interpret the relative FERC precedent and industry norms to arrive at rates that fairly reflect LADWP's cost of service and satisfy the business practices certification standard. Next, the pro forma open access transmission tariff that is maintained by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission provides a baseline for ensuring that the services offered are comparable and that are not unduly discriminatory or preferential to all eligible customers. LADWP carefully addressed the differences between its 2014 tariff and the pro forma tariff when developing the tariff that's pending before you. Now, without repeating the points Ms. Kerr made in her presentation, there are some notable attributes illustrating the objectivity and fairness of the process that LADWP followed. First off, stakeholder discussions outside of public meetings were avoided. This was done in order to ensure equal access to information and the development of a complete record upon which the general manager could make his decision. Next, the initial proposal of LADWP reduced transmission rates and ancillary services and significantly modified the non-rate terms and conditions of service. Then, after considering all stakeholder comments, LADWP further reduced rates and modified the non-rate terms and conditions of service. Now, to ensure reasoned decision-making and transparency, the general manager's certificate and contained the general manager's analysis, decisions, recommendations, as well as the entire record that the general manager relied upon to make his recommendations. And while the general manager did not agree with every stakeholder comment or interpretation of precedent, the general manager made reasoned decisions and applied the law in a fair and objective manner. The process resulted in the changes to LADWP's tariff that are pending before you today. So thank you.
Thank you all very much. Does that complete the presentation?
It does.
Okay, we have, I believe, 4 speaker cards. Barbara?
Yes. Okay, the first speaker is Christine Godinez, and then after that, John Strickman.
Good morning, Mr. President and members of the board and staff. My name is Christine Godinez, and I am Principal Assistant City Attorney for the City of Glendale. And I'm here today to request that this board not approve the resolution at this time, but instead direct LADWP staff to work with Glendale and Burbank on the significant rate issues that we've raised in the process. While we agree that LA's OAT proposal has moved in the right direction, unfortunately, it falls far short of offering open access transmission and interconnection services on a comparable, non-discriminatory, and non-preferential basis, despite what LADWP's board letter suggests. On the contrary, as the cities of Glendale and Burbank pointed out in our briefs that we submitted in the LADWP stakeholder process, LA's proposed OAT results in rates and terms and conditions that are unjust, unreasonable, and unduly discriminatory. The rate design issues that we raised demonstrates that LADWP's proposal goes against industry practice and long-standing precedent. Specifically, LA has proposed to use a 4 coincident peak in its OAT divisor, and this is not supported by precedent. Similarly, LA has proposed a return on equity that is equally not supported by precedent. Together, these fundamental flaws in the proposed OAT rate design result in OAT rates that are significantly overstated. The result is that Burbank and Glendale's customers would be forced to unjustly and unreasonably subsidize LADWP's customers. Burbank's and Glendale's customers should not be forced to take on these burdens. For this reason, I'm requesting that the board not approve the resolution at this time, but instead direct LA staff to work with Burbank and Glendale to resolve the significant rate issues that we've raised. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is John Stickman, and after that, Lincoln Belair-Vrenz.
Hi, good morning. My name is John Stickman. I'm with the law firm with Duncan and Allen. I'm a partner there. I'm the outside counsel for Burbank and Glendale that was charged with reviewing the OAT and looking at the terms and conditions. In addition to the rate design issues that were just discussed, the city's also identified numerous discrimination issues in the submission. For example, LADWP's OAT proposal effectively requires OAT customers, my clients, to pay for transmission used only by LADWP to deliver power to Castaic. You heard earlier how important Castaic was to your future storage requirements. Well, customers who use the facilities that deliver the power to Castaic should have to pay for them, and that's Los Angeles. In addition, the proposal discriminates against OAT customers by forcing them to pay for the Indio Rinaldi transmission path, even though it's undisputed that the OAT customers do not and cannot use these facilities to transmit power to their loads. Similarly, LADWP has forced OAT customers to pay for real power losses based on a 6-year-old study that doesn't recognize the millions of dollars in upgrades that LADWP has made, which dramatically reduce those losses. And those upgrades have been made in the last 11 years. Simply put, OAT customers are paying for upgrades in their OAT rates that they don't get the benefits of when they pay for losses. Finally, as we saw in 2014, you may recall I was here before in 2014 and had similar comments. LADWP's OAT proposal continues to provide LADWP's Wholesale Energy Resources Marketing Group, affectionately referred to as WORM, undue preference in a variety of ways, which provides WORM an unlawful competitive edge over Burbank and Glendale and over the other generators that compete in the market. Such discriminatory treatment violates longstanding precedent and basic common sense. Therefore, we request that the board not approve this resolution at this time and direct LADWP to resolve these discrimination issues with Burbank and Glendale before they are adopted. And if there are any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Lincoln Blevins, and after that, Christopher Chong.
Good morning. My name is Lincoln Blevins, Assistant General Manager for Power Supply at Burbank Water and Power. Also here to talk about the OAT. As you've heard, Burbank and Glendale are part of the LA system, are part of LA's balancing authority. And so the OAT is very central to us. It is a big driver of the economics of our utilities. We've participated very intensively in this process, as we did a couple of years ago in the last process. And I think what staff has said to you is true. The process has improved significantly, but it's still not there yet. It's not there yet from a process perspective, and the substance that is created by that process, the OAT itself, is not there yet either. And that really goes to two fundamental points: transparency and non-discrimination. And that, as has been pointed out before, is to the detriment of the ratepayers of Burbank and Glendale. We are paying for things that we are not receiving the benefit of. That said, I can speak from personal experience, that we have a very strong working relationship with the staff at LADWP. We've worked with them very closely on very difficult issues and come to very, very good resolutions on other difficult issues. So we are confident that if we are given the time and the opportunity to solve these issues, we can reach amicable, mutually beneficial resolutions. But we do need that time, and we do need those discussions. So on that basis, I'm asking that the board not approve the OAT at this time, but instead direct staff to continue working with Burbank and Glendale to reach resolution. Thank you.
The next speaker is Christopher Twang.
My name is Christopher Chuang. I'm a senior assistant attorney from the city of Burbank. As some of you may recall, we appeared before you last on June 3rd, 2014 to address similar concerns about the open access transmission tariff. The cities of Burbank and Glendale are deeply concerned about the stakeholder process associated with LADWP's OAT revisions at issue today. The entire process lasted from January 19th through April 14th, 2017, less than 3 months. This is dramatically less than the standard industry practice of about 9 months to a year for similar OAT proceedings. As detailed in our briefs, this unreasonably truncated process was further compounded by various actions by LADWP that resulted in keeping us from fully and accurately participating in the information sharing and components of the process. A stakeholder process must provide stakeholders the opportunity to provide meaningful input. Here, LADWP failed to completely answer certain information requests, forcing the cities to request additional information. Moreover, on multiple occasions, LADWP refused to answer the city's questions in their entirety. Normally, the failure to provide such information in a formal proceeding is inferred adversely, is inferred against the person not providing that information. For example, the city's requests were denied when they asked LADWP to provide us certain contracts and data necessary for the cities to understand the various proposals. The common answer was that the information requested was not given to or relied upon by the consultants, these third-party consultants that they discussed in the presentation. However, the information requested was integral to our understanding and verifying the LADWP's proposals. Together, the truncated stakeholder process, coupled with LADWP's failure to provide all of the data and information requested, resulted in the cities being unable to fully understand and verify LADWP's proposal. Accordingly, we request that the board not approve the board resolution at this time and direct LADWP to provide a process that is consistent with industry's practices. As Mr. Blevins had indicated, we think that more time would really help resolve these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to ask staff how they feel about the request for more time and whether they feel that would be a constructive approach.
I think I can answer that. The issues that were presented today are not new issues. These issues have been raised in the past, and in the general manager's certificate, the general manager went through and addressed each one of their issues and addressed the time issues. All stakeholders were given the exact same amount of time, and LADWP followed the process that had been put in place prior to the development of these tariffs, and that process that was developed with stakeholders in advance.
I see, I saw in your presentation that you received written stakeholder comments not only from Burbank and Glendale, but from PowerX, Anaheim, Azusa, Banning, Colton, Pasadena, and Riverside. How do they feel about this?
Very supportive.
Our indications, we've had positive comments from both the 6 cities, which were the cities you outlined, as well as PowerX.
Okay. Do commissioners have questions or comments? Is there a motion? I move approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Noonan, item 20.
Thank you. So obviously this is a subject dear to my heart, and and if anything, I would like just to be further educated on this matter, specifically as it relates to the timing of trying to achieve our goals. So if you could walk me through why is our target simply to double what we're doing in this endeavor? Why does it take until 2039? And why is this agreement for 3 years? Can we not achieve such goal setting in a more time efficient manner? And I realize that they're going to be helping us evaluate certain areas in Los Angeles where there are areas of contamination. But if you would just elaborate on that first.
Sure. So the contract is to help us with special services that we don't have in-house to be able to evaluate these, basically these 4 basins that are identified in the letter. We don't currently directly pump out of those basins ourselves, so we're looking to all different places. Obviously, we pump heavily in the San Fernando Valley, but not so much on this side of the hill. And so, and really in my career, we've really never done any substantive plans to actually that would lead to us sinking new wells in those basins. So Geosyntec is being asked to come on to help with that. 3 years is just the standard agreement length for that, and so that's why we picked that. And so they'll be doing hydrogeological studies and looking at other information in those basins and helping us develop plans. It won't take 3 years, but we have 3 years to work with them.
I guess that was my question. Typically, to do those kind of evaluations, are they turned around in a 9-12-month time span? I mean, when can we expect an update in this regard?
If we don't have to sink any wells to do any additional studies, so any kind of big program like that, maybe Chris, you can come up. Chris Reps, our contract administrator on this, and he can fill in blanks here. And Russ Pearson is with him on your left.
Good morning, President Levine, Commissioners. I'm Chris Repp. I work in Water Rights and Groundwater Management Group within the Water Resources Division. And essentially, this is a planning level look, kind of a high feasibility look at these basins and what opportunities there are. So we may have plans to sink monitoring wells to kind of help identify some of the geology in some of the basins. But really what we're hoping to get out of this contract is kind of the next decade of where we want to go. Where's the low-hanging fruit? We have, for Santa Monica Basin, Hollywood Basin, Central Basin, West Coast Basin. There's new adjudications there in Central and West Coast. So there's a lot of new opportunity. It doesn't necessarily mean that it makes sense to establish groundwater in every basin. And this is really to help us kind of hone in on what makes sense. There's a lot of different ideas.
And let me ask you this, as given all of our water conservation efforts, given the drought that California experienced, and then the huge amount of rainfall we've experienced this year, how should that affect these levels? And the other thing that I'm very sensitive to is I serve along with Mr. Harwick in the Owens Valley Committee, and there's a lot of contention about pumping. And so would you elaborate first on the drought, the rainfall that we've had, the time it takes to absorb that water. I know that you've been working on a very detailed plan to distribute all of the snowfall that we anticipate within the next few months from up north. So if you could speak.
Yeah, so all these basins are in the Los Angeles area here, and so they're recharged just by the tributary basins within the LA Basin here, and then the south side of the Santa Monica Mountains. So they really ride and fall based on the local precipitation. So some of the plans we have looking forward is actually recharging those basins with recycled water as well, and so part of the studies will be looking at what kind of potential benefits we can derive from that. In terms of controversy and pumping and relating this to pumping in the Owens Valley, it's a lot different. Everybody's for pumping local resources here in Los Angeles, and so the goals that were set and affirmed by Water and Power from the mayor of Los Angeles, and so we're on a course to really amp up our reliability on local supplies and reduce our reliability in imported supplies. So planning efforts like this, as Chris said, are needed to happen right now so that we can start planning for them to be actually put in motion within the next 10 years. And some of these will take quite a bit of ways to get there, because it'll require obviously new pumps to extract that water, but also a distribution system to get them into places where we've never injected groundwater into our existing water distribution system.
Okay. Thank you very much. The other question I had simply relates to procurement, and what I so appreciate how we've made such progress in getting more detailed information about bidders and why they didn't bid. But in this particular case, I was surprised just by the numbers that 59 entities downloaded information about bidding. We had 25 firms attend the November 9th, 2015 proposal conference, yet only 2 bids came in. And for the people who decided not to bid, it came down to 2 issues. One, which vocabulary I really didn't understand what you meant by inadequate capacity. They didn't have the staff to address these issues, or I felt that language was very vague.
Gwendolyn Williams, Director of Supply Chain Services. Normally when they say they've got inadequate capacity, it means that they just don't have the ability to support the work. It may be that they're busy doing other things. We've got a lot of construction going on, and I probably need a little bit of help with water, but I think there's a lot of groundwater monitoring activity going on in the state, and so there just aren't a lot of people available to do the work. So that's what they normally refer to when they're talking about capacity.
I hope you can understand why I had to ask the question,
absolutely.
because going from 59 to 2 bids.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And a lot of times with the big numbers, a lot of subcontractors, potential subs also download the information, so they wouldn't necessarily be bidding, but they might look for partnerships and other things. So a lot of times, because there's not 59 major firms in the LA area, there's probably maybe a dozen or so. So you're getting a lot of other companies that may find a way to plug into that or be looking for that. So that's why those numbers are so high, because that's a lot of people to be looking at engineering work.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Can I-
Commissioner Barad.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to ask specifically, because it seems to me to be essential that we clean up the San Fernando Valley groundwater, what the plans are for that.
Yeah, so this is not dealing with San Fernando Valley. So in the San Fernando Valley, we do have a number of projects planned, and we're going to present one
it's deferred, right?
this morning
Yes.
that will be deferred to our next meeting. But
Okay.
there are essentially, as public knowledge, there's 4 basic treatment plants that we're going to be looking to construct within the San Fernando Valley to increase production by treating that water and thereby cleaning up the valley.
Okay, so we'll hear that then maybe at our next commission meeting.
Hopefully.
We're not discussing it in this motion.
No, this one has nothing to do with the San Fernando
Okay.
Valley.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Thank you. Item 25, Commissioner Barad.
Did we do item 22?
22, we're going to wait till Thunderbird gets.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to, at our last commission meeting, I had many questions regarding the MOU between DWP and the Los Angeles Unified School District. And I just wanted to go over a few of these points. And I wanted to thank Michael DeAndrea, who I met with this morning, and Donna Stevenson, who really filled me in on some of the answers to some of my questions. But I think that it's important enough that we talk about this in an open session about this program. And it's interesting that while I asked about tracking, there was no tracking done on this program until 3 years ago. And now we're starting to do some tracking. And I wondered, Michael, if you could speak to that about the tracking, that because this was a concern on our parts.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Good morning, Commissioners. Michael D'Andrea, HR Employment Services Manager. We started the tracking of the YSA program a few years ago with our counterparts at Los Angeles Unified School District. We have Jose Artiles and Christopher Gutierrez. And essentially what we endeavored to do was to send a survey to past participants in the program and ask them a variety of questions in the survey about their experience working for the Department of Water and Power, what they're doing currently, and whether they have an interest in returning to work for the Department of Water and Power. We, of course, as with any survey, we don't get 100% participation in the survey, but we get a good response. The last survey that we saw of 62 respondents, 57 indicated that they intend to return to Los Angeles Department of Water and Power for a career. So that's very gratifying for us and something that we look forward to doing and something we look forward to seeing when we survey the students.
All right, the other question that I had brought up is that with all these schools that are participating,
yes,
there were no schools from the San Fernando Valley. And as you know, the Valley is 40% of the city of Los Angeles, and we certainly have at-risk students in the Valley. And I was concerned about this, that we were not including a whole section of the city. And so I wanted you to address that as well.
Okay, so I'm Jose Artiles. I'm the administrator over all the work experience programs in the school district. So when we recruit students, what I do is I email every single school. So I have a representative at each school that distributes job opportunities, which includes the Valley. I think the issue is it's the geographic situation. To be honest with you, it's hard to go from the Valley over here. And I mean, I'm assuming that's what it is. I don't know,
I'm a commissioner and I live in the Valley, so I can attest that it's a long trip.
Yes.
But I don't think that's a satisfactory response. We have these students who are at risk, and I would like to know what you're doing creatively. Are you thinking about ways to bring these students here? Have you thought of a shuttle, or how about a school bus? Some way to have some, place in the Valley where students could come and then get a ride here. We can't expect these students to come that would have transportation. I think we're asking too much, and just to say, well, it's too far, that's not satisfactory.
No, I think what we could explore is possibly giving them tap cards so that they can come here via bus, because the students don't have cars, so they would have to take some form of transportation, either metro or the subway or something like that. I don't know, Chris, or...
No, it is a transportation issue because the students need to be able to be here for work beginning at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It is their responsibility, although conversely there are students all the way at the furthest end in the southern part in the harbor area who make that commitment and do travel by bus and make it over here on time. So it's just a matter of commitment, a personal commitment from the student. I can't speak for each and every student, but I know individually, I know some of the students in the harbor make it over here. It's up to the students in the valley. I believe that if they can make the commitment, they can be here.
Yeah, if I might interject, let us as managers explore some potential opportunities for a location in the valley that we might be able to put forward so that the students wouldn't have to commute down here for the 1 o'clock start time, but might be able to locate a work location somewhere in the valley that's closer to them and more realistic for them to get to in the time frame.
Yeah, and I would also suggest that we speak to the Los Angeles School District to see the possibility of getting a school bus and having some kind of location in the valley where these students could come and then have the transportation here.
No, we could definitely explore that.
You know, Los Angeles is not known for its public transportation. And to ask people to get on a bus, you know, I think it goes beyond commitment. I mean, it's difficult. And I think if we are really trying to bring people onto DWP and deal with these students, that I think we have to think of creative ways to bring them here. And the harbor is actually easier to get from the harbor to here than from the valley. But I think maybe you could have a school bus in the harbor that brings people up here. But I really want to see that you're making some kind of progress in trying to get a way to get students from the valley and, you know, to get here. If not, then some kind of a location in the valley. And I'm going to request that you come back to this commission and talk about how you're going to get these students from the valley over here. And I just want to make as an aside that my youngest son went to integrated schools in the Los Angeles School District and came from the valley, traveled 45 minutes by bus so that he could have an integrated education in the city. And there was a bus. And there was a pickup place, and he would get the bus, and students came from 63 different sending schools. If they could do it then, we can do it now.
Commissioner, we can work with LAUSD on exploring that option. It might be possible to have 1 or 2 satellite locations in the valley where a bus might be able to come downtown. Obviously, we reach out to a lot of LAUSD high schools in the valley. As you know, we have 2 students, one from Sun Valley and one from North Hollywood, joining us in the next year. So a lot of high schools. The valley is a geographically diverse, expansive area, so perhaps if we could consolidate that into a couple of locations, it might be possible.
I think that would be good, because we have in the northeast part of the valley, we have certainly gangs and at-risk students, and the same thing in Reseda, same problem. And Councilman Bob Blumenfield is looking into this because of all the gang activity in the valley. So I think we should be trying to help those students. And also, I think that we should look towards increasing this number, that out of the 30 students, that there were only, was it out of the 30 students, Michael, that only 7 then went on to work at LADWP or the city?
Well, we have 30 students each year.
Each year.
And we have 29 currently in the graduating class now. We have 7 students who have become DWP employees. Well,
Is that
6 and 1 in the city.
Is that out of the 3,000 that we've identified?
It is, and that's something that we're working hard to improve. We want that number to be higher, given the time and resources and energy and commitment we put into these students. And so we are working very hard. As you know, we do everything we can now to educate them on what is required to apply for a city job. We work in a civil service environment, but we can educate them on what they need to do. Obviously, the experience of being here every day working with their mentors is a meaningful experience, not just a good opportunity, and something that they can apply in the application process when they go for a job. A lot of our YSA students work in an office environment providing clerical assistance. It's very important work. But when we reach out to them in their Friday classes, we talk about the wide variety of classifications and jobs at DWP, whether it be field work, administrative work, engineering. We talk about our student engineering program. We talk about the utility pre-craft trainee. We're giving them a breadth of experience and exposure, and we let them know that we would like very much for them to come back and work for the department, and we're willing to help them. Do we provide a waiver to the civil service process? Unfortunately, we don't have the authority to do that. Nevertheless, we're working hard to bring them back on board.
Yeah, and I think that you would agree with me that 7 students out of 3,000 is really...
We're not proud of that number. We want it to be higher.
Not a good return. And, you know, is this then a decent return on our investment? Because, you know, we're paying, what, $91,000 a year, and, you know, and all the time involved with the mentors.
Right.
So I think we have, that's why I was against it the last time, is because I didn't think we were getting a good return on our investment. And I would like to know that you really are working together to take care of some of these issues.
No, for sure. We definitely intend to do that.
Well, I think it's not only important for DWP to get these student workers who are working with us every day back as full-time employees, but we can see that when 57 of 62 respondents say they want to come back and work for us, it's also a benefit for them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's advantageous all around.
Yeah. Well, I would like you to come back and report back and see if there's some progress here.
Mr. Chair, can I add a few points there?
Absolutely.
Is that appropriate? So I think also we have a lot of other trainee programs, not obviously for high school, but for people that are seeking work. And it feels, and I have to agree with Ms. Banks that it feels like it's a missed opportunity for us not to connect the high school program with what's coming next. Because, I mean, we all know that, especially with at-risk youth, you know, they need an extra support and love and a lot of other things to get to where we would like them to be in society, right? So I feel like maybe even looking at when you come back with the report that we're asking, even looking at how we connect that high school program with what's coming next, maybe, I mean, I know that we have a UPCT program, and so that they can continue the pathway so that they actually end up here again. Mm-hmm. And it's not this program that was really great and we invested all these resources and money and it just went somewhere and it's in somebody's, you know, diploma in a living room, but it's actually something actionable that we can do the continuum and they can end up working here, hopefully doing stuff that we really need.
Right. One of the connections we're making is between the YSA program and our student engineer program. You know, we're an engineer-driven organization. Mm-hmm. We hire our engineering associates on campus for the most part. We go to 16 or 17 schools twice a year. We're making sure all of our YSA students, no matter what their interest may be, we're making sure they understand what kind of a student engineer program we have so that they can pursue that if that's their interest. And if they could possibly move from the YSA into a student engineer program and then perhaps even be interviewed on campus for engineering associate.
Excellent, thank you. All right.
I did want to add one other thing to respond to your comments related to geography. We as staff have actually started looking at the locations of where staff live. And this, so just if you could give me 2 minutes to kind of get them to your point. We've started creating essentially bubble maps as to where our employees reside, and even broken down, stratified by the age of the employee, to see where employees can afford to live, where they can afford, how far they're commuting, where work locations should be. And we're just at that preliminary part, but what it's looking like is over time, we should be creating a workspace in the valley. And I don't mean like for 10 people, I mean a large office building where we essentially create 2 different work locations so that the workplace, essentially we reduce commutes, but that reduction in commute is not only for all of the benefits of reduced greenhouse gases and time on the road, but truly that we're moving our work site closer to where our employees can afford to live. We're several months before, I should say months before bringing that forward as a discussion at a board level, but the indications are, and common intelligent business practices are, that you should have work locations closer to where your employees live than farther away, because they're more likely to be satisfied with their job and stay at the job than move on. So we're, again, just at the preliminary analysis, but my expectation is that we will come to the board with a request to strongly consider and review creating a work center in the valley that could house engineering staff, technical staff, clerical staff, essentially the entire array of jobs that we have in this location. And it's truly a way that we would have of attracting and retaining staff. Right. Because frankly, we're getting to a point where some staff are commuting 90 minutes each way, and you're just not going to keep staff whose commute turns into that, especially when there isn't the robust mass transportation system. So again, that should over time help create a location where we would significantly increase the amount of participation here, on top of increasing the ability to attract, to hire and retain staff.
Yes.
So it's a big issue and something that we've noted and are looking at the study and the backup and the analysis before we can bring that to the board.
Well, I am so glad to hear that, really, because we need that for our workforce and our workforce for the future. This is an enormous city, you know, it's so spread out, and we really have to consider where people live and where they go to school, and, you know, we've got to consider all that in our plan. So I'm so glad to hear that, David.
Can I just offer one comment to your comments and Commissioner Vasquez's comments? You know, we are very concerned about making sure that we have an adequate workforce and one that represents the city and also provides opportunities for citizens. And so both what we're doing with LAUSD, our own programs like student engineer programs, utility pre-craft trainer programs we have with our friends in the union back here, we have a very strong mutual interest in making sure that we provide opportunity, that we get good employees, that people want to work here and want to make a career here. And so, especially with the number of retirements that we know are coming, so we're always trying to improve not only the programs and the outreach, but also to make sure that when people work here on a temporary basis, that we provide the kind of training and background that makes them be successful when they take civil service exams. Because we still have that arena to play in, but we're always working, trying to make sure that their experience then translates into a good chance to get a full-time job, because they still have the city process to go through. So, you know, we continue to work on every avenue we can. It's a great partnership. We've been growing the number of students. The student engineer program had kind of died down. We've been adding to that slowly but surely every year. And there's probably more opportunities. There's a certain amount of capacity that we all have to absorb student workers in the summertime, because they have to have, you know, regular supervision. Let's think of adult supervision, it's literally, and they have to be in a proper crew environment where they have a learning opportunity, but it's also safe. So it's a challenge for our line supervisors to bring the young folks into work, but they also make a commitment to that. And we do the same thing in the Owens Valley, where our summertime jobs are some of the only summer jobs that a lot of kids have up there. And so, but it's a commitment that our rank and file make, because they know how important it is to bring on the next generation and to be a positive influence. So, we really think this partnership is very valuable. There's always ways to outreach, always creative ideas, and certainly we want to do anything we can to make sure we reach all areas of the city. But it's one of several avenues that we work on very closely. We have strong partnership with the union in this, because we are all in this together to make sure we have a viable workforce for the future, and it comes from the city of LA.
This isn't directly on point because it isn't LAUSD, which is so central, but in light of the nature of the discussion, what's our current outreach efforts to the various local city colleges and state colleges and universities here for our? I know a number of people have come straight from local schools. I don't know how aggressively we currently recruit from the range of colleges in the area.
I'll let Michael comment, but right now we have a engineering recruitment that happens on campus. One of the things we've been talking about, we're finding challenges like the IT area, is that there's probably a lot of other, particularly professional classes that need college degrees, where we should do more on-campus interviews besides just engineers. And so we're looking at that, because and even for engineers, we're finding now that we have a 6-month rule. You have to graduate within 6 months of making an offer. There's some places, especially electrical engineering, where kids, before 6 months before graduation, they're already committed to jobs. Right. And so it's an evolving area. Michael, do you want to expand on that?
Right.
No, sorry, what colleges I missed?
Oh, we hit all the colleges in the state. I mean, we're up and down the state. We actively recruit and do on-campus interviews. How many schools?
I think we're at about 17 right now.
Yeah.
And are these Cal State and UC?
Yes.
And
Loyola Marymount, USC.
All four-year schools?
All four-year schools for the yes, Commissioner, for the engineering recruitment, because that's a requirement for that classification. We are also considering going back to other states as well, as we used to do many, many years ago, particularly schools that have very, very strong engineering programs, some of which have specific power curriculum and water programs. So we're considering that as well. We do, I think, 17. We go to Northern California from time to time. I think we go to San Luis Obispo. We've just recently started going back down to San Diego, UC San Diego, San Diego State.
How successful are we?
Well, we're very successful. That's except for we do also have open exams for the engineering associate classifications, but the overwhelming majority of our hires for engineering associates come directly from on-campus recruiting, which is an authority that's been given to us by the personnel department to conduct civil service exams on campus. And so they're done directly at the career centers at those colleges. And we go twice a year, and we keep repopulating those lists, and our hiring is increasing considerably.
And I did want to add something, because it's one of those changing tides, if you will. We've often gone to campuses, and so you go to a graduating senior and go, guess what, we think you're great. Now go through the 8-month process to apply for a job through civil service here, and maybe we'll hire you in December. Okay, when I went to college, I wanted a job the day I graduated, and there were, it was a reasonable time, so there were offers around. So we've got to a point where for the top candidates, we can do on-the-job, on-site job offers. And I will tell you, it's a way that, the reality for hiring, government isn't on the cutting edge. Just got to be straightforward. And we were losing, and do lose, some of the top candidates that might be interested here. So the ability to go out, sit down with a graduating student who's going to graduate sometime, right now it's 6 months or less, that says, we would like you to come to LADWP, and here's your job offer today. And that student can walk out of there with the job offer and say, you know, I got a job and I'm committed. And frankly, like I said, every student wants to be able to graduate and move on to something, not graduate and wait. And frankly, if they, same thing, if you're a graduating senior and you get a job, you're not likely to leave that for 3 or 4 years. At that time you may, but you go and stay where you've put forth the effort to get recruited. This is especially important in engineering and IT.
And how do we fare competitively with the private utilities when we do that?
When we do that, as far as salaries, we compete. It was timing, and in fact, we are, for a graduating engineer, we're a little bit better than Southern California Edison. And we need to be, because their primary location for staff is out in Pomona, and ours is in downtown. So you do have to, there's a little bit of an increment that you pay for someone to commute downtown. But they're close. They're within, you know, less than like 5 or 6% differential. But when you can make that job offer, the student is ready to take it and excited to take it. But when you can't make that job offer and you say, now go to the civil service process, and someone else offers them a job in the next 3 weeks, they've taken that job. So we don't offer on-the-spot jobs for everyone. You have to be one of the higher scoring candidates. But if you're a high scoring candidate, we want you to walk out of that interview with a job offer. And to respond to Marty's comments, in my degree, accounting, the interviews took place basically within a few weeks of you getting back to the fall semester. So truly the interviews were mid-September and October. And I don't think that's changed, though it has been about 150 years since I was in college. But you literally, it's 9 months before you start that you're provided a job offer. Is it the same, Reiko, that you remember? Yeah. So we have got to look at how we compete with others, and we have to change our rules. Government has to change our rules because the world isn't going to change to meet ours. But again, you know, applying for a job usually with the government is not an easy task.
Do we have a signing bonus?
We don't, but we've actually looked at that in certain areas, and it might work for a couple key areas, but it's probably the ability to provide the on-the-spot offer that is the biggest strength that we could have, and we've moved back to doing that. And the ability for our staff to go and make that offer on the spot.
We have a signing bonus if they'll play for the DWP football team, which Marty coaches.
Well, we used to have a softball team. But, one of the thoughts, besides just the kids going to college, things such as the line series for electrical workers is very difficult to get people and retain them. And so, and this is an area where you're really, a lot of times you're looking at kids that are either trade tech, or maybe they're out of high school and maybe need to go to trade tech, need to educate them. Andy Kendall, who's trying to hide in the audience, has done a lot in this area. I'm looking at opportunities to bring high school kids in, give them a little pole climbing experience, try to expose them to the work, because these are great jobs that need a future workforce. And so we are trying to be creative in how to expose kids to these opportunities that are not so obvious, you know, and it's one of those things that unless you have someone in the family who works in that business or exposed, you might not know about the jobs. And they're good, solid jobs that we want to try to hit earlier in the high school years to expose kids to that, try to steer them in the right path so they can become future employees.
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest that the school district try to recruit from the math and science magnets throughout the school district.
And also women.
And many of those are in what we call underserved areas. And they already have an interest in math and science. And I think we can get some.
Yeah, and also especially women.
Yeah, we've done that strategy too. What happens though a lot is these are honor students and AP students, and they usually have a full load of school that day. And since the students have to come here by 1, they rather do other classes at school, and they end at 3:30. So, but it's so noted though. I agree.
President Levine?
Yes.
One, because of the shortage of, in particular, STEM or science, technology, engineering, and math students, these types of programs are common in utilities. And this scale at roughly $100,000 per year is certainly in the range that's reasonable. And it's also, if you look at our community outreach programs, which were 10 to 13 million a year, this is less than 1% of that in terms of cost. So it's in a reasonable cost range. The benefit to the community in terms of bringing along students in these areas is important. And it isn't just businesses like DWP that are trying to build students in this area, but it's also colleges and universities in the science and technology area that are trying to reach out to these communities. It's important for building diversity. In the past 5 years or so, there have been success in increasing not just the diversity among women students, where there are some colleges that are now about 50% women in engineering and science, but also in other disadvantaged groups. So I think it's important and not unusual to support this type of a program.
I just had a question just for clarification. When you reference the 8-month training, is it like a paid internship? Are they getting paid for those 8 months?
Like the NEAT, the new engineer, yes, they're being paid for the 8 months while they're here. It's a training and rotational program so that they can be exposed to several different areas and then make a good fit on with what they like to do, with what our needs are. But through that process, they've interacted with a number of new peer engineers and then managing engineers, so that as they move up through the organization, they can remember, hey, 5 years from now, hey, I worked with Joe or Betty 5 years ago, and I know they're in that area, so I can call them because I need some information that helps me. So it really helps build the network of awareness and communication and camaraderie that is also part of a required workplace environment. But they're already hired as engineers, yes.
Yeah, Commissioner, they're in Section 530, temporary training classifications. They're regular civil service appointments. Temporary training periods last different periods of time as stated on the bulletin. So for engineering associates, they can do a minimum of 2 years, a maximum of 3 before they move to the next level and become journey level engineers.
Is there a motion?
Can I, personal privilege? I'd like to support this, but with the caveat that we get a report back on the things that we've talked about today, and perhaps in a month. I mean, we've already deferred it 2 weeks, and I just feel that unless we say that we need to hear back, it's going to continue as is.
So perhaps we modify it with the report back and outreach efforts and progress being made and new approaches?
Yes. Can I, Joe?
So you would make a motion to amend to include the language that Marty just referenced.
What did you say, Marty? Okay, so I would like to amend the motion that's before us with adding that the DWP and the school district will come back to us in a month with what progress has been made on recruitment, tracking, and
new outreach plans.
And new outreach plans.
Is there we'll accept that as an amendment to the motion. So is there a motion to approve with that amendment?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved as amended.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, we have 3 items left, 2 of which required Commissioner Funderburk's presence, and one of which he wanted to be present for, and fortunately he is. So the first of those 2 is the approval of the minutes of May 16th, at which time the only commissioners present were Funderburk, Barad, and Vasquez, and therefore they're the only three who can approve those minutes. Do one of you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. Item 27, which we'll leave for last, both Commissioner Barad and I need to recuse.
Really? 20, sorry, say it again?
27. So we need Commissioner Funderburk to constitute a quorum there, along with Commissioners Noonan and Vasquez. After we do item 22, Commissioner Barad and I will leave the room, and you guys will deal with item 27. So the one remaining item other than 27 is item 22, and to that I turn to the General Manager.
Thank you. This item has to do with a consulting contract for services provided with the remediation of the customer care and billing system in accordance with the settlement agreement mandated from the class action lawsuits. That settlement agreement should go to court in July to be confirmed or ratified. And we start at that point a 3-year period, as originally anticipated, for adhering to a number of performance metrics and billing improvements at that point in time. So that 3-year process then includes 2 audits, one at 18 months and one at 36 months by an external audit firm that also can provide assurance that we're meeting those performance metrics and the targets we've committed to in the settlement. And on top of that, we have a monitor, a court-appointed monitor, who is here during that 3-year duration, providing feedback on our effort and movement to meeting those goals. So part of the settlement required these 2 external independent bodies that would monitor us meeting the requirements of the settlement agreement as we move forward. As to the need for this, I could present, and I have a presentation that I could provide that I will tell you because it's that detailed and that and these services so necessary that I could present that. I would expect that be a 30 to 45 minute presentation because it is to that level of detail. But I thought if you'd like, I could, I'll summarize it in about 3 to 5 minutes, and then if you determine at that point you'd like to go through that presentation, I would be happy to go through that. Right now, the efforts towards the CC&B system are essentially, the financial cost of that is accumulated and sits on our books, and the cost of what we put into the CC&B system right now is about $250 million of capitalized funds. To summarize and put it bluntly, we brought a system online a little less than 5 years ago that was a failure, and we overbilled 3/4 of our customers. That resulted in a class action lawsuit by those customers. The implementer of that, of the program, we believe provided such poor quality service that we're suing them, and in fact we believe they committed fraud in order to obtain the engagement. What I look at is we are 5 years into this system, and this system still isn't working. It is working now to the point of not overbilling customers. But we haven't got into the efficiencies that we anticipated, the underbilling that we believe is occurring. We know there are meters out there that are not associated with accounts that are utilizing energy and water, and we just aren't billing those customers. And in fact, those range into the hundreds of thousands of potential meters and services. Each one of those which should take some sort of technological analysis and then field visit. A lot of work and a great deal of potential underbilling that we should be billing customers for that usage. We have in the report 10 specific areas that we need to move on right now to not just provide what we believe is the remediation, and there's one of them listed as remediation, but all other areas that essentially fold into making sure that there's an accurate bill. I'll use one as an example, which is kind of similar to what I just used. We have got to get out into the field and look at, and have a process that essentially gets to every meter that's broken or reported as an issue in a very quick time frame, and get that meter read accurate. Then it has to go through a process where it goes through essentially a different system to drop into the customer care and billing system called a meter data management system. We've got to get that process completely working so that all that information that flows back and forth from the billing system to the field is accurate in reporting proper readings. And as an aside, it's, let's say you have a broken meter. You have to have a report from the field that says there's a broken meter. You have to then assign a new meter to the process. The meter has to go out there. You have to record the new reading. You have to install the meter. You have to pull out the old meter. You have to record the old reading. And all of that has to fold into CCNB. And then in the future, it come out. And that entire process is still not completely workable. And one of the items on this is to look at that. Another is to look at the performance metrics. Another is to look at unbilled revenue. So there are a number of key elements that need to go on and need to happen right now to meet this 3-year time frame. The alternative from this is to go out and go through the formal RFP process, which at a minimum takes 6 months, but really is more likely to be a 9-month to 12-month process from the point we're at now to a point of acceptance. And I want to explain why. Essentially, I've laughed because it's one of those nightmare times. Essentially, everybody that's working on CCNB is either brand new or about to retire. We have one consistent person who is not in that process of essentially these 6 management employees. So writing the RFP, everyone who could write that RFP is either brand new and hasn't been around the system or is about to retire, which makes the development of even the RFP a challenge. And then once you would hire, it's going to take a new firm about a year to get up to speed as to what we do. I like a procurement process that follows the standards of RFPs, of competitive responses, of qualified responses. But to go through that process, we will not meet the 3-year remediation period that we are committed to by the court. And I will tell you that I can't commit that we will meet the requirements of the court if we go through that process.
Excuse me,
yes,
excuse me, Dave. That 3-year period is July 1st to June 30th, July 1st of this year to June 30th
of 2020.
2019 or 2020?
2020. So it starts the 17th, and then at the 18-month audit is essentially December of 2018. And the 3-year audit, or the end of the remediation period, is June of 2020.
And I assume that every effort has been exhausted to obtain an extension from the court monitor, because we've already obtained many extensions for many other things, including getting the rebates out, or the reconciliations out and everything. So has every effort been made to exhaust getting an extension if this other alternative had to?
So we negotiated the 3-year time frame with a number of other attorneys who are representing the plaintiffs. And we've committed to this, and we've gone out in public stating this, and we've gone to court. I not being an attorney, I don't know how you undo or extend a negotiated settlement time frame, but Joe or somebody...
It's a matter in which the order has been through a preliminary approval, so we're now waiting a final approval, so we would be going back to change the terms of the preliminary order.
And that wouldn't just be with the judge, that would be with the other parties that were bringing the action, right? Including a lot of contention that went into that, right?
Correct. And as part of that negotiation process, there were desires by plaintiff's attorneys to go on a much faster schedule, and we got a 3-year schedule because we know how long it could take to basically meet the performance metrics and the time it takes to to change CCNV when you do the proper amount of programming, testing, reprogramming, retesting, and do all the work that should have been done before we went live, and doing it now on a live system to make sure any adjustment you make results in a completely accurate bill. So we have had, for about 2 years, someone who's been working here that's listed as the project director in the agreement that has been on site as essentially a third-party independent consultant operating as essentially the project manager, project director, if you will, and quality assurance function. All of the time that we've spent for the last 18 to 24 months has been on running every possible alternative where we could have overbilled the customer, which was our requirement under the commitment for the class action lawsuits. The alternative to that would have been having the plaintiff's attorney in our system running all those alternatives, and that's just not, we need to control the access and the sequencing of how that was performed, and then have a plaintiff's attorney concur with that, which is the approach that we used. That approach was reviewed by the independent court monitor during that time frame and found to be appropriate and accurate, and was accepted by plaintiff's attorney as being a comprehensive approach. Now that we went through that process and identified everyone, and we've now notified all those customers, we can start moving on all these other items that we need to move this system. And this part is frustrating, to move the system to the place where it should have been 5 years ago, and it's going to take us 3 more years. That, to me, is just almost unbelievable that a system was in place that was so flawed and allowed to go in live with a concurrence by the implementer that said this system's ready to go, and it was in that bad a shape. So at this point, we are requesting an agreement with Aventador at a single source approach for the next 3 years of the remediation period. At the end of 2 years, we'll start the RFP process for the next round. So we go through the normal procurement process. Again, I wish we could do that now, but if we do that, we are not going to meet the requirements of this 3-year period. And we are moving forward with someone who has had a proven track record of success with staff, with the courts, and with meeting the requirements that we needed to upgrade the system so that it's actually billing accurately. So with that, if you'd like to, I can answer more questions. I can present the 45-minute presentation, or I can meet whatever the needs of the board would like.
I have a comment. I certainly don't need a longer presentation. I don't know if my colleagues do. I want to compliment you, Dave. You came in as we were feeling the initial disaster unfold, and it was such a disaster that it basically hamstrung the entire department and required all hands on deck in all parts of DWP to deal with the extraordinary, almost unbelievable, and complex fallout from the rollout. And your job was basically to get things fixed, get things right, and particularly in the context of customer service, which had become a humiliating embarrassment. And it's remarkable that you've retained your composure through all of this. And it requires someone with an extraordinary composure to have done that, which you have done with extraordinary professionalism. I don't think we have any choice but to do what you are recommending, because if we don't end up meeting the requirements that have been imposed upon us by the court, the disaster that will befall us at that time will make the last one look like child's play. And so I admire and respect the manner and skill with which you have taken on each stage of this disaster, and I feel the same way about your anticipatory efforts to make sure it doesn't get repeated. So I strongly support your recommendation. And just having been here the last 4 years, I don't need to hear a lot more because I know what we all went through and how complicated it was and continues to be to get on the right track. So I mostly want to just thank you and compliment you.
Thank you.
I echo your sentiments. Very difficult time.
Other Dr. Pickle.
It's been nearly 4 years since customers started being disrupted by this process, and I think it's important that time is of the essence. One thing we think would help the process is board level reporting on testing of any software product by Aventura, but also testing or reports on testing of other components of the software system. And it would be good to have that reported at a board level committee or subcommittee.
I think that's very wise counsel and very constructive advice. Dave, how would you propose that we incorporate something like that into the process?
I think that's an excellent suggestion. And the way I might suggest we would do that is to create a committee of the board, which actually was something that was recommended originally by the state audit a while ago. At that point in time, it was it really wasn't. We weren't ready for that. But however, at this point in time, because that was going on essentially through the class action lawsuit settlement process. However, at this time, I think it would be very appropriate to perhaps create a subcommittee of the board of 2 board members that could meet at least quarterly and get updates of the work that was being performed by Aventador and how it was meeting the 10 items listed in the report and all of the metrics related to the class action settlement. And that exists for at least the process of this 3 years of remediation. We will be getting reports from the contractor on a monthly basis. And I think that it would really, it's just an excellent idea. I might, because it's part of a legal settlement or a class action settlement, there might be a benefit by having the 2 attorneys from the board sit as part of that group, because there may be some discussions on requirements by a court-appointed monitor or meeting the deadlines that the judge has put forward, or things that could impact or affect the settlement that would need to be discussed that might require that legal background.
Why did I suspect you were headed in that direction?
We love you. You're the attorneys. We love our attorneys.
It's something Bill and I are dying to do. But I think we have to. So do you want to include that as a part of your motion, or do you just want to follow up? I'm not sure that needs to be part of the motion.
You could make it part of the motion.
I would actually like that.
Commissioner Funderburk would like you to be part of the motion. Okay.
So
that there'll be an oversight committee consisting of at least the 2 lawyers on the board, and perhaps others to be added later, although they can't be other board members given the Brown Act.
Correct, and that we can, at our first meeting, determine what the oversight committee would like to hear, the frequency, the reporting, and make sure that we meet the needs of the board in the oversight of this contract.
Speaking as one of the 2 lawyers, it would be useful to have some IT expertise factored into this, because this board member does not have such expertise.
Okay, we'll figure out how to do that.
Okay, so this is amended to include an oversight committee, which will at least include 2 members of the board. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. It's unanimous, none opposed.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one open item, agenda item, which is 27, for which Commissioner Barad and I need to disappear. And then after that is presided over by Commissioner Funderburk, we will ask council to direct us into closed session. Yeah, here. Here's the bottom item. Wait till we're done. Which won't take long.
All right, the 27th item on the agenda, proposed Second Amendment. First of all, any comments, Barbara?
I have no cards for this one.
Proposed Second Amendment to Agreement Number 473586 with the Gallagher Law Group to provide the department legal advice and representation for groundwater-related disputes and litigation.
Julie Riley for the City Attorney's Office, if there are any
Counselor Riley.
This is a request for additional funding for the law firm that we have retained and has been working for the city for the past year and a half, I believe, to assist us in seeking recovery for groundwater contamination.
Any comments from commissioners?
No, I'm very well versed as to the reason why the additional funds are required, so I make a motion to move.
Is there any other comments? No other comments? Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
You got it.
At this time, we will recess into closed session, and in accordance with California Government Code 54957.1, we'll report any reportable actions thereafter.